The Fighting Illini go into Lincoln and escape with a 78-69 victory. Do you believe yet?
You are Locked On Illini, your daily podcast on the Illinois Fighting Illini. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome all to another edition of Locked On Illini. Thank you all so much for making us your first listen each and every day. And thank you so much for making the Locked On Sports Network the number one network in the world. My name is Sonny Verma, your host here at Locked On, where I continue to provide you coverage daily, each and every day, sometimes twice a day. If you would like to support the program, everything you see and hear is absolutely free, but please make sure you smash that like button and make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Today's episode is brought to you by Mazda. We put that same drive into every detail. Wins define the moment, putting in the work that defines you. Stay tuned for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you. All right. First off, I want to say I appreciate each and every one of you. I know usually I go live immediately after the games, but I got to attend a watch party. I was invited by the Illini Alumni Club, so I was there. Check the comments. You guys were like calling for a medical emergency. No, I promise. I knew I was going to come on a little bit later, but what a game that was. Talk about vibes. We're talking about in the span of 8 days, this Illinois team has gone into Mackey Arena against then, I believe they're in first place, or if maybe they were a game behind the Purdue Boilermakers, and you escaped with a victory there. And maybe say escaped is not even the right word. You were the better team in Mackey Arena against Purdue, who was then ranked, I believe, number 4 in the country. And then, just earlier on Sunday, Illinois goes to Lincoln, Nebraska, to face off against the one blemish on their Big Ten record this year so far. Nebraska winning the first game in Champaign with a buzzer beater 3-point shot, which, again, I told you guys at the time that loss is not as bad as people were making it out to be. And Nebraska's kind of shown that was true, right? They're coming into this game 20-1, 9-1 in the Big Ten Conference. They were favored in this game today. This was a Nebraska team that without 2 starters went into Ann Arbor and quite honestly outplayed Michigan for most of that game. A lot of people consider Michigan the best team in the country, maybe the best team in the Big Ten Conference. This is a very legitimate Nebraska Cornhuskers basketball team. And Nebraska played lights out in that first half. How many times can a college basketball team say they scored 11 3-pointers in a single half and then ultimately lose that game? That run that Nebraska went on at the end of that first half was a great one. Credit to them. And yet, at halftime, I told the Talk Illini Discord, I was like, you know what? After all this, after that, the Nebraska Cornhusker fans, they were loud. You could feel the energy coming off that TV, the environment. And after all that huge Nebraska run at the end of the first half, Nebraska was only up 6 points. And I'm saying it again. You can see the little crack of a smile on my face. Seeing that first half, seeing those first 20 minutes, the fact that a team like Nebraska, one of the best offensive teams in the country, one of the best defensive teams in the country, they couldn't separate themselves from Illinois. And Illinois did not play well in that first half. They couldn't get a 3-point shot to fall. And they're only down 6 points at halftime. And what happened at halftime? Adjustments were made at halftime. Illinois won the second half 45-30. For how long have we, as an Illini fan base, begged this coaching staff, Brad Underwood, to make in-game adjustments, right? That was always the blemish when it comes to Brad. And it's funny because those of you who are my everydayers, by the way, I appreciate each and every one of you. You guys remember my post-game show after that UConn game where I came in here and I was upset. And I was like, why can't, with Brad Underwood, do we just have a ceiling as a program? The inability, look, they can game plan, but if something goes awry, Illinois themselves, they never are able to respond. It's not the case anymore. I know I'm repeating myself, but I think you guys are seeing it on a game-to-game basis. This is not the Illini teams that we're used to in the past. Nebraska was making every single three-point shot they shot in that first half. And then we got better at closing out in the second half. They were shooting, I believe, 54% from three in that first half, if I remember correctly. They finished the game at 43%. The shots just weren't falling in that second half. Why? Well, we were catching them a lot faster the second time around, but they're regressing to the mean, right? Like they're just coming down to a normal level. Even then, they shot 43%, which brings me to this Illinois team. I've said if they shoot 35% from three-point land and they out-rebound the opposition, they can win any basketball game. Today, they only shot 30% from three-point land. They shot 9 for 30. Now, they did control the boards, and that's what this basketball team does, and that's one of the reasons the final score here is 78-69. But again, a Nebraska team which can shoot their lights out. I think they had a 1.35 points per possession in that first game in Champaign. And let me take a look at today. It's significantly 1.13. Today they scored one of the better offensive teams in the entire country. Illinois, coming into this game, had historically the best offensive efficiency in Ken Pom history. They went into Lincoln, played a very tough defensive team in Nebraska, and at the conclusion of the game, their offensive rating went up. At some point, and I think we're there now, you let me know. Uncle Phil's cows, of course, helps me out. Ken Pom, offense number 1, defense number 24. I believe the defense was 32 coming into the game, if my memory serves me correctly. So the defense has gone up 8 spots. But are there anybody out there yet who still doesn't believe, who still thinks that this team is going to crack at some point? Because if there was a situation, it would have happened in Mackey Arena. It could have happened today. Look, between Purdue, between the road game against Nebraska, and between the game with Michigan State next Saturday, I would have, truth be told, I would have been content with one win. Give me one out of those 3. Tough arenas to play, arguably the 3 toughest arenas in all of the Big Ten to play at. Illinois has already got 2. They've already won 2. And quite honestly, and a lot of Nebraska fans, I'll give you guys a shout. You guys, for the most part, acknowledge that Illinois was simply the better team today. You got a lot of that on social media, saying a lot of Nebraska fans actually were saying that Illinois clearly is the best team in the Big Ten. They just played Michigan just a couple days ago. We're turning Nebraska fans into believers. And at this point, we need to start believing. And if there's one guy that we absolutely have to believe in, and I can't wait to talk about him, let's do it right now. It's Keaton Wagler and that performance. Yeah, Keaton Wagler. Let's talk about that right after this. It's the last call for football on FanDuel. One final Sunday, one last kickoff, the final chance to get in on the action before the NFL season officially comes to a close. This is Super Bowl 60, and FanDuel is making sure you're right in the middle of it with a special offer just in time for the biggest game of the year. Whether you're backing the Seahawks or you're going to ride with the Patriots, or maybe you're just going to build one last same-game parlay, this is the game that everyone has been waiting for. This is where predictions turn into plays, stats turn into storylines, and every snap feels bigger. It's the perfect way to cap off the season and make the Super Bowl even more exciting from kickoff to the final whistle. If you're a new customer, bet just $5 and get $200 in bonus bets if you win. Make it count, because after the Super Bowl, the season is over. Last call for football on FanDuel, an official sports partner of Super Bowl 60. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Guys, for the first time in a very long time, Keaton Wagler stunk for 20 minutes. I think it's safe to say in that first half today, Keaton Wagler shot 2 of 9 for only 5 points. He had 3 assists and a turnover, playing 18 minutes. And maybe for a split second, the idea that, Keaton Wagler's high school basketball team was all there. I think a lot of his friends and family were in attendance that game. And maybe Keaton was just trying to do too much. He was not a good player in that first half. But again, Illinois was only down 6 at half. All of this combines into a similar storyline, if you're catching my drift. Keaton, despite not having a good first half, then all of a sudden, Keaton Wagler shows up in the second half. In the second half, he scored 23 points, made 5 of 6 from the field, 3 of 4 from three-point land, 10 of 12 from the free throw line. Again, he played the entire second half, 20 minutes. And Keaton saw something today that he hasn't seen in the past, and that he's going to see a lot more moving forward. And certainly next Saturday, teams are going to try to beat Keaton up. And I thought that maybe they were getting in his head in that first half. They did as good of a defensive job as I've seen anybody do against Keaton Waggler this season. Nebraska did in that first half. But they were hitting him. They're very physical with him. There was a hook and hold that wasn't called. That one call, I know you guys know what I'm talking about, wasn't upgraded to a flagrant foul for whatever odd reason. And when you look at Keaton, right, he looks like he's 150 pounds soaking wet. And Nebraska had a game plan that maybe they can get in his head and really make him second guess wanting to come into the paint. Because these fouls, they weren't just fouls. They were, I'm trying to send you a message type of fouls. And Keaton, again, in the first half, didn't play all that well. But in the second half, he just, the Keaton Wagler that we know showed up. And now that you see like his ultimate game line, he finished with 28 points on 7 of 15 shooting in 37 minutes. And you know what? The best part of Keaton's game today, well, it was his offense in the second half, certainly. But his defense in that second half, he's growing at that area as well. The thought just came to my mind, so I feel like I have to address it. If you guys haven't talked about it in the comment section, please do. At one point, Brad Underwood trotted out a lineup that had Keaton Wagler as your point guard, Andrei Stojakovic as your 2, 6'7", 6'9", David Mirkovic as your 3, then 7'1", Tomislav Ivisic as your 4, and Big Zavonimir, 7'2", as your center. There's maybe 2 other teams in the country that can match that type of size. You know how we were concerned about when Kylan Boswell went out that, hey, we only have 1 point guard now? We've learned essentially over the past week that that's simply not the case. Brad Underwood has built this team the way he's been envisioning it for years. And just now, this year's team, it's got the right personnel for it. That monster lineup that played together not only kept the Illini in it, but they actually made a run themselves. That monster lineup where 6'6" Keaton Wagler was the shortest guy on the court. There was 5 point guards on the floor at that time. They put Z in the dunker spot. You had David dribbling it up court at some point, giving Keaton Wagler a break. Like, that's the type of stuff that they put on tape. Like, what's Michigan State going to do against that? You know, a lot of Fred Hoiberg talked about it in the postgame press conference. I never get to watch these postgame press conferences because I go live immediately after the game. But I got to watch Brad. I got to watch Fred Hoiberg. Fred acknowledged it. He said, like, yeah, this lineup that Illinois put up was just, it's extremely difficult to guard. And that just teases you a little bit about what else does Brad Underwood have up his sleeve with this basketball team. Because again, David's a great passer, and he's a great decision maker. Tomislav Ivisic, we saw it last year. Arguably, our offense was at its peak last year when Tommy was essentially running the point from the high post. Pick and rolls with Will Riley. And between Tommy and David, you have 3 playmakers on the court when you already have Keaton Wagler. And Keaton doesn't need to have all the pressure of doing everything himself like it looked like he had in that first half. But that just, again, today, if anything, has sent a message to the rest of the Big Ten. Nebraska was favored in today's game. I don't think Illinois is going to be an underdog in any game remaining on their schedule. And I don't think I'm being too brass when I say that. Michigan State Breslin Center next Saturday. It's not going to be an easy game. And quite honestly, those of you who've watched Big Ten basketball for a while, you know that what we saw from Nebraska today when it comes to the physicality, it's going to be 10x that against Michigan State. If there's one thing I'm worried about, and again, you don't have to remind me. I know we play Northwestern, I believe, on Wednesday or Thursday. So the team's not looking ahead, okay? But Michigan State, if there's one thing I'm really afraid of, and you know what Tom Izzo has been coaching for 25 plus years, they're going to take their cheap shots. They're going to be tripping guys up. If they think the ref is not looking, they're going to try to hurt these players. And the game is at Breslin, where Tom Izzo gets in the head of some of these referees. And that is, quite honestly, a concern of mine. But that's why I'm so grateful that Illinois got a glimpse of that today. Keaton Wagler was hammered today over and over again. David Mirkovich was pushed in the back over and over again every time he was going out for rebounds. Michigan State's going to do that. You know why? Because they have to. Michigan State is not as good talent-wise or skill-wise as the Illini are. So they've got to even up the game somewhere. You thought Mackey was loud? You thought the Pinnacle Bank Arena today was loud? Breslin Center is going to be just as loud. And Michigan State's going to do what they tend to do. They're going to turn everything into a wrestling match. And it's going to be up to Illinois to not back down from it. And again, I think you saw a glimpse of it today, and you have to feel more confident. I've watched the Illini for so long. And we've all collectively been waiting for that other shoe to drop. This team has now won 11 in a row since that loss to Nebraska in, December. If this team wins out, I would not be surprised. Should they? No. I'm sure there's no team's going to go, 18-1 in the conference. That's not going to happen. Or is it? Is it out of the realm of possibility with this basketball team? Every week they show you something that should alleviate you of your concerns from previous year's teams. Brad Underwood is doing as masterful of a coaching job as he ever has. And I know Fred Hoiberg's going to get all the mention about being coach of the year in the Big Ten Conference, maybe national coach of the year, and I understand it. And I'm not saying he doesn't deserve it. But if there's any year, if the Illini can go, 18-2 in the Big Ten and win the Big Ten Conference, where 5 of the country's top 10 teams all reside, with a freshman leading the team, you don't think Brad Underwood's going to get some mention? They absolutely will. What if they get a number 1 seed? We talked about this before. Again, they're only playing 7 guys at this point. But Brad's always had an idea, and, you can credit Tyler Underwood too, about a certain vision for a basketball team. And now we're seeing that vision play out. And it just so happens, last year, you didn't quite, the 3-point shooters weren't 3-point shooting. And the guy who was the engine of the offense just turned the ball over more than the average Illini fan would like. And quite honestly, the coaching staff would like. But this year, that's not the problem. You have the prototypical perfect. You have a 6'6" point guard who doesn't get phased, who doesn't turn the ball over, and who can shoot. That's literally that's the player that Brad Underwood would build in a lab. And that player was ranked in the 250s when it comes to recruits. I'm going to say it again. If any of you complain in the comment section about Illinois getting a 3-star and saying they should be going after 5 stars, at this point, you're being silly. You got to trust the evaluation of this coaching staff. They clearly do know what they're doing. Let's get to some of your comments right after this. This is Mazda's moving the game forward. For those who showed there's more to the score than what's on the screen. Today, I'm going to give a shout out to Brad Underwood and Cameron Crocker and that coaching staff. They were ready for this Nebraska team. This Nebraska team is one of the best offensive teams in the entire country. And what did Illinois do? Going into halftime with a 6-point deficit, they made adjustments, in particular on defense. And you know what? They outscored Nebraska big in that second half. This is what Brad Underwood teams have lacked in the past, in-game adjustments. They're happening now. And these remind us of what it really takes to raise the bar. It's that extra work off the court, dialing in every detail, giving it that extra fire, that grit, and I never quit. We put the same passion into every model, highlight to make the real. What it took to get there makes it count. There's more to Mazda because there's more to you. All right, welcome back. We have 169 people watching, 76 likes. Look, the likes, that math is not mathing, all right? It's a big day for Illini sports. Well, a lot of you wanted a change for the defensive coordinator spot. I haven't even talked about that. I'm going to have to save that for tomorrow's episode. But Aaron Henry is gone, which I know a lot of you are celebrating at this point. Illinois goes into the number 4 team in the country, their place, Nebraska, number 5, I believe. Yeah, number 5 team in the country. They avenge their only Big Ten loss. And then tonight, right before I go online, the women's basketball team travels to Washington and beats number 25 Huskies. It's a really, I say this a lot. It's one of the common sayings of the show. It's a great time to be an Illini. Show me with the likes on this particular video. Look, what it does is it costs you guys absolutely nothing, but it shows it. The algorithm works that it's sent to other Illini fans so they can find us here at Locked On as well. All right, so let's go to some of the comments here. All right. Daryl says, what a game. I felt like we took over the game and enforced our will with about 8 minutes left. So, Daryl, I agree with you. I was watching this game. And one thing about me is like every time Nebraska made a run, Illinois just didn't get flustered. And I think if you're a Nebraska fan, how frustrated are you? You take a look at the statistical profile of what happened between these two teams. Outside rebounding, which Illinois dominated 40-27, but Illinois dominates everyone when it comes to rebounding. Like that is the game plan. But you watch that game, and you're a Nebraska fan, you are frustrated because this Illinois team just never cracked. Every time you went on a run, Illinois would quietly just respond back. And that's why I think we've gotten a lot of respect from the Nebraska fans. If you peruse your favorite social media, there's a lot of people saying, I even sent one in the Talk Illini Discord, like, today's the first day, this was a Nebraska fan, today was the first day Nebraska went up against a team that was better than them. And again, this team just played Michigan a couple days ago. So I agree with you. I think Illinois kind of made it clear today which the better team was. And the players knew it. I think the fans even got to know it. Because again, the second half was a 33-39 Nebraska in the first half, 30-45 in Illinois' favor in that second half. Sorry about the outlandish banter, Sonny. We were very concerned for your safety. Thought a Husker might have grabbed you. Yeah, again, all these guys thought because I wasn't live immediately after the game that something might have happened. That definitely wasn't it. Fox River says, like this smash button. Absolutely. Expert says, the Illini have won against top-ranked teams without Kylan. Keaton was awesome today. Guys, what happens in 2-3 weeks when Kylan comes back? Do you remember in the Rapid Reaction episode, when Kylan went down with injury, I talked about how this was clearly not a good thing for this basketball team. And I'm not saying I wouldn't rather have Kylan on this team, but I did entertain the idea. Look, in the past, when guys got hurt, when guys got sick, other players were forced to step up. And, last year, the Trey White comes to mind in particular. You saw his renaissance, his rejuvenation in that second half of the season when Tommy and Morez were sick and injured, and he was forced to play big minutes. He became one of our best players. And I entertained the idea, hey, maybe we can spin this positively and something like that's going to happen this year. Now, I don't think it's any particular player that has, made that leap. But I think the team itself is gaining so much confidence. I told you guys in that very episode that, hey, the offense might actually get better with Kylan sitting on the bench. Just because Kylan's offensive style is not as efficient as Jake Davis. And Jake Davis is taking a lot of Kylan's minutes. But in about 2-3 weeks, we don't have an exact date, Kylan's coming back. And now you're playing 8 guys per game. Right now, Illinois is only playing 7. Again, today was the same thing. Illinois only ran 7 guys on the court today. All you need is 8 for March for a good basketball team. So you bring back a guy who's going to be your best defender, then Andrei Stojakovic, who did not have a good first half, but it had a very solid second half. Andres can stop focusing on the best offensive player and switch to guarding their B player. And Kylan can come in and slide and guard the opposing team's best offensive player. So your defense should get better. I just think that the adjustment this coaching staff has made with Brad Underwood saying, hey, Keaton, you're the guy. You've got the keys. It's 11 times in a row. This is 11 post-game lives in a row where we're talking about a victory. And, again, Nebraska was shorthanded against Michigan. They had their players today. Sure, they didn't play all that well, but they had their squad. Illinois beat Purdue and Illinois beat Nebraska without their starting point guard. This team can get better. And that's a scary thought if you're in the Big Ten Conference. Fox River says Illini and Nebraska should just trade places in the AP poll. Yeah, that's going to be coming out tomorrow. What do you guys think? Is this enough to go into the top 5? They're at 9 now. Probably not. I don't know what teams 1 through 8 have done, but Nebraska should still be a top 10 team. I think they really showed it against Michigan. They're a really good basketball team. Expert says, I can't wait until the Illini play Michigan. That's going to be a fun game. And I'm certainly glad that game is going to be at the State Farm Center. And let's be honest, that could be for the Big Ten Conference. Illinois needs to crack the top 5. It's a matter of respect. Uncle Phil says, Keaton Wagler, the stone-faced assassin. William, I want to see Illini jump over Michigan State in the rankings, but I don't think they will. Voters are going to lean towards Izzo because he's Izzo. Yeah, we'll see. I don't think rankings matter too much. I've always said AP stuff matters more for fans than it should. Just look at Ken Pom. Just look at Bart Torvik. Okay, Ken Pom has us as the number 5 team in the country. Torvik has us as the best team in the country since December 1st. And that's what really matters. That's what the tournament committee and all that, that's what they're going to be looking at. Expert says Keaton just quieted the life out of that crowd when he got hot in that second half. He quieted them. He frustrated them by just getting fouls. Yeah, and that's just a skill he's really good at. And I know I saw a lot of Nebraska fans complaining that there were some ticky-tack fouls. I mean, that is a skill, right? I learned that was a skill when I saw Terrence Shannon Jr. do that over and over again 2 years ago. And Keaton just happens to be an 18-year-old guy who, by the way, he doesn't turn 19 until next week. He's just 18 years old. Incredible. I can't wait to see him at the next level. Although, actually, no, I can't wait. Never mind. I'm kind of enjoying him at this level. But, yeah, just a supremely skilled player. Let's see. Oh, this is absolutely, I want to bring this up, and I think I did. Johnny Rep says Cameron Crocker is the difference. What a hire. What a hire. Like, when it comes to the defense, we played zone today, and we switched up the zone. Not that it worked necessarily all the time, but it confused Nebraska. And Nebraska's a great offensive team, and even though they were making shots, they were uncomfortable. And that's all you can do to a team, right? If shots go in, shots go in. You just tip your hat. But they made Nebraska uncomfortable, and ultimately in that second half, the shots didn't go in. All right, that's going to wrap it up for today. I've got to record tomorrow's episode, of course, where we're going to talk about Aaron Henry and his becoming a Notre Dame Fighting Irish, apparently. But, okay, on your way out, please make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. I appreciate each and every one of you. Until next time, ILL. Love you guys.